Welcome back to the channel, and today we'll be doing some basing work using coffee grounds and foam. I do make quite a bit of coffee, so it seemed like a good idea to reuse and recycle all of the grounds that come from it. First, we'll prepare our coffee grounds. So we'll need a shallow container and a paper towel for this. Once the grounds have cooled from the brewing, just empty them onto the container and spread them around. Once you've spread out the grounds, just leave out the container in a well-ventilated area uncovered for a day or so. After about a day of drying, just check to see how the grounds are doing. If you feel any moisture on them, then it's best to leave them out a little bit more. Otherwise, just transfer them onto a covered container and you have basing material that's ready to use anytime. Just a note, pests aren't usually attracted to the grounds, that's why I use them. At the same time, I've added a little silica gel thingy here to help keep out any extra moisture getting into the container. Right, now let's do some hobby. So I've kit bashed a figure here for our build today. He's a warg rider, he's been sitting on my desk for quite some time now. So I figured this would be a good opportunity to finally get him on a base. Next, I'll be using a 32mm base for the build. This is not the base, it came with a kit. In fact, I think the kit comes with a 40mm base, but it'll do for my purpose today. Now, the last bit of material we're going to use today is Eva foam, or what I commonly refer to as puzzle mat foam, because I buy these as puzzle mats, the kind that you use to put in your kids' room so they can roll around on the floor. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our base and we're going to take our foam and we're going to try to measure the two to each other. You don't really need a big chunk of foam for this one given the size of the base. So just pick one of the bits that you might have used from one of your previous projects. So this is something I like to do often. So now we've got our little rectangle here, and what we're gonna do next is get our pencil and just try to do a rough shape, sketch a rough shape of the rock that we're gonna be cutting out of this onto the foam itself. Then we're gonna take our cutter here and just trim off the excess bits of foam using the shape as a guide. Then take the hobby nippers and just start snipping away at the sides of the foam. What you want to do is try to give it a sort of rough cut edge, kind of like what you see with prehistoric tools in museums. Now, you don't need to throw away the excess foam. Most of these will come in handy later if you'd like to add them as additional basing material, or for other projects down the line. So I'm gonna take some time here and just really play around with the foam a little bit on the base, see what good position I can put it in before I glue it on. Now, if you're wondering, I haven't glued the figure onto the foam and the foam onto the base just yet. What I'm really doing right now is just checking to see how the figure looks on its own, as well as checking how it'll look with the rest of the display it's going with. Now that I'm happy with that position, I'm just gonna press the figure into the foam here a little bit to leave an impression of where I will glue the foam onto the figure. Then take the hobby knife and just score the areas or the spots where the model will contact with the foam. After the hobby knife, just go at the foam again with your hobby nippers and try to dig out a little bit the spots where the figure will be in contact with the foam. This will make the figure look more integrated onto the surface of the foam. Once you're done with that, just get your super glue and attach the figure to your rock base. For the next bit, I'm just gonna take some PVA glue and apply it onto the plastic base, right underneath the foam. Make sure to get good coverage with the PVA glue, get it into all those nooks and crannies. Because for the next step, we're gonna give our little figure here a bath in the coffee grounds, as you see in the video. You just hollow out an area there where you can dig the figure into the container and just really get the grounds all around it. Get the grounds on top of it, make sure it covers every bit of that base that's underneath. Now this would be a good opportunity to do some other hobby stuff because you're gonna have to leave this in the grounds for about an hour or so, just to make sure that the glue dries properly with the ground stuck on it. This is what it's gonna look like after about an hour or so of drying. Just use one of your paint brushes to tap out the extra grounds once you fish it out of the container. So the last part of this craft up is to seal the foam and the coffee grounds. I'm using Flat Minis varnish mixed with some water here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna dab it into the coffee grounds, just letting the water do the work, letting the mixture seep into the grounds. And then I'm also gonna rub it down here on the foam, and this to really help prepare it for priming and painting. Alternatively, you could seal this with PVA glue, but I much prefer using the Minis varnish, as taught to me by Louie Loves Minis. The reason being, the PVA glue has a way of activating once it comes into contact with the thinned down paints. I won't be covering paint up in this video. However, I do advise you to look at the other excellent painting guides created by other content creators already here on YouTube. I do have a showcase at the end of the video just to give you an idea of how you can paint this up. Thank you again for watching, and if this video has been helpful and enjoyable for you, then please click like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you again next week at another Warp Painters Warpcraft.